I welcome you to the next lesson, dear learners. The previous lesson, we looked at how to find the circumference of a semicircle. Before that, you had looked at how to find the circumference of a circle. Therefore, from that point, we shall pick up from the semicircle with a combination of the whole circle, and we are able to know what is called a quadrant. I want to take a look at this circle here. This is our circle. This is a complete circle. Out of the complete circle, when I divide it into two, like this, what do you see? A semicircle. This is what you looked at last time. So it was a half of a circle where the circumference is equal to half times pi times the diameter. Out of this half, we are supposed to again to divide it into two so that we get what we call a quadrant. How we do it? We shall divide this one. What do we get? Yes, it's a quadrant. A quadrant is a quarter of a circle. A quadrant is a quarter of a circle. So we are now looking at the circumference of a quadrant. We should consider that it is 1 out of 4 of the whole circle. Like we had it here. If you look at the circle very well, we have divided it into 4 equal parts. So we have 1, 2, 3, and 4. If you look at it from here. So out of this, we need only this one here. And that is when we fold or when we cut, we shall remain with this. What is this? It's a quarter of a circle. So if a quadrant is a quarter of a circle, then we can look at it in this form. We can look at it in this form. Next move. Our next move will be there. Yes. Look at that. That is a complete circle, as we were shown. And the part which is painted yellow is what we are calling the quadrant. That is a quarter of the circle. When we remove that part, we remain with that. That is a quarter. You saw we extracted it or we removed from the whole circle. How do we come at that? We need to look at the parts of a quadrant. A quadrant has got parts. What are those parts? Yes, that's what you call the line which is running at a perpendicular point, showing an angle of 90 degrees. The downer part here. This one is our radius from this point to this point. And then also, from this point to this point is also another radius. A quadrant has got 2 because it's from the center to the circumference. Which part do we call the circumference? We have it there. Yes, that part there you're seeing is our circumference. So we have the radius, and the circumference. The semicircle had the diameter and the circumference. So how do we get the formula for finding the circumference of a quadrant, which is a quarter of a circle? What do we do there? This is our quadrant. Yes. This is our quadrant. How do we get? We say it is 90 degrees out of 360 degrees. We multiply by 2 pi r. The common formula for finding the circumference of a circle is 2 pi r. Now, if we have only this one here, look at this. This one and this. There is an angle here at a perpendicular, giving us a total of 90 degrees. So we say 90 degrees, which is the center angle for the whole circle. Out of the 360 degrees, the sum of the center angles, you multiply by the circumference of the circle. Let us simplify it. This one here, we shall divide this by 90. What are we going to get? Get our 4. 90 divided by 90, what are we going to get? Our 1. So in simple terms, our circumference is a quarter times 2 pi r. The circumference of a quadrant is a quarter times 2 pi r. So we shall begin from there. Let's look at some of the examples by saying, number 1 is saying find the circumference of the figure. Find the circumference of the figure. When you look at the figure, this is our radius, this is also the radius. They are the same, that's why you see this sign. And then this is our circumference. Basing on how we got our formula there, what are we going to say? Circumference is equals to a quarter times 2 pi r. A quarter times 2 pi r. Let us substitute. Yes, our quarter times 2 times 22 out of 7 times 7 meters. The unit there is meters. The unit there is meters. So what are we going to do? They are common factors. Let us simplify and see how we are going to get our circumference. We shall say here, there is 2 and 4. So 4 divided by 2, we are going to get our 2. When we divide 2 by 2, we are going to get our 1. Let's look at the next one. 2 divided by 2, we shall get 1. Which other number can be divided by 2? 22 divided by 2, what are we going to get? 11. Then look at this, 7 and 7. By 7 here, we shall get 1. And by 7 there, we shall get our 1. What is the next step? We shall have our circumference as 1 times 1 times 11 times 1, which gives us 11 meters. Can we remember the formula? It is a quarter times 2 pi r. 2 pi r is a general formula for finding the circumference of the circle, or pi d if given the diameter. Even this one, we can combine the 2 radii to make the diameter. You can add them, 7 plus 7, which then you say a quarter pi d. You can adjust. But for this one specifically, because we have the radius, we can deal with the radius. Let's look at the next example. Therefore, underline your answer very well, then you follow through. The next example is saying find the circumference of the figure. Given the radius as 30 decimeters. Look at the figure. We have the circumference, and there are dotted lines here. There are terms we are going to look at. When dotted lines are given and you are asked to find a particular value, we always leave the dotted line. But the length of the arc or the circumference is always the same. But here we are finding the circumference. So, like we have used the other side, you need to know how to choose the value of pi. Where are we going to get the value of pi? I always tell that when the radius or the diameter is a multiple of 7, it is very easy for you to use 22 out of 7. But when you look at 30, 30 is easily divided by 10 or divided by 100 compared to 22 out of 7. So there, we need to deal with the 3.14. So here we go, saying circumference is equal to a quarter times 2 pi r. Let us substitute. This time we have used 3.14 is also another value of pi. 3 and 1 out of 7 is also another value. When you go to the advanced level, after your primary 7, you will discover that the value of pi there changes to 3.142. They keep recurring. They just simplify it. For you, we rounded to the nearest 2 places of decimal. So we have a quarter times 2 times 3.14 times 30 decimeters. Let's move to the next. Yes, to make our work simple, let's remove the decimal by expressing 3.14 as 314 out of 100. Why? Because we have 2 places of decimals. 2 places of decimal. So we have a quarter times 2 times 314 out of 100 times 30 decimeters. Check the units. Very, very well. Let's simplify the work. Let's remove the fractions. We see what to do. Yes. By 2 there, we shall get our 2. That is 4 divided by 2, you get 2. 2 divided by 2, we get our 1. Let's go to the next. We simplify by 2 here, we shall get our 1. Then 314 divided by 2, we get 157. Let's come down here. We divide by 10. By cancelling the zeros, 100 divided by 10, you get 10. Then 30 divided by 10, we remain with 3. What is going to be our next step? We are supposed to multiply 1 times 157 times 3. Only 3 has remained there after cancelling the zeros. So when we multiply 157 times 3, what is going to be our next move? We shall get 471. Remember, 10 has remained here. So what is going to be? Out of 10. Going to be out of 10. Therefore, move to the next. Divide 471. You know what we are supposed to do. You cancel this way, we shall get 1. There we shall get correct decimal point moving towards the left. And what is going to be our answer? It is going to be 47.1. When you are dividing a number by 10, out of 10, and that number is not a multiple of 10, means you are going to correct the decimal place, or the decimal places. So it is by 10, 1 decimal place. So we moved and then we form our answer as a 47.1 decimeter. Please don't forget to underline your work. Go through the work, compare number 1A and then B, or part 1 and part 2 of our number 1. This one brings us to the next example. Saying find the length of the arc AB. Earlier on I talked about the length of the arc. The length of the arc is the same as the circumference of this point here. This one here. The same as the circumference. So we have the radius. The arc AB is this one here. Then we have this and this one. Then this one here. This is what you call. This is the radius. This is also the radius. So we have 2 radii. Therefore, let's see how to find the length of the arc. There is no big difference between the length of the arc and the circumference. There we go. The circumference is the same as the length of the arc, equals a quarter times 2 pi r. Substitute. We have a quarter times 2 times 22 out of 7 times 14 centimeters. Why did I choose 22 out of 7? Because there is a multiple of 7. You can see that we are able to simplify. So there we go. Let's simplify the number so that we remain with our answer. Shall have 4 divided by 2, we'll get 2. 2 divided by 2 shall get our 1. 2 divided by 2 shall get 1. Then 14 divided by 2 shall get our 7. Why did we do that? So that we can simplify the work, the common numbers, so that your 22 may come out easily there. Next, 7 divided by 7 shall get 1. Another 7 there, divided by 7, you shall also get 1. What do you remain with? You have here 1, we have here 1, we have here 22, we have here 1. So when we multiply those numbers, 1 times 1 times 22 times 1, the distance round, or the length of the arc there, you see, 22 centimeters. Compare your number 1, part 1, your number 1, part 2, and then now this is our number 2. Look at the difference. Follow through. Don't move very fast. Keep revising. You come back. Make sure you get what is needed there. We are going to the next part of our work. Let's look at this. You underline. Please don't forget. And use the nice line. Just like 9. The next, find the perimeter of the quadrant below. You are supposed to find the perimeter. What do you know about perimeter? Perimeter means the distance around, the total distance. The total distance. Talking about the distance from this point, when they say the perimeter, the total distance, here, this one. So if I have this, I have my quadrant here, this one. I can turn it in this form. I can have it in this form. Different forms. But let's have it like this. When you are talking about the total distance, meaning the move should be all over. Radius, and this is our circumference. We looked at the part at first. You saw it very well. That we have to consider 3 parts when we are getting the perimeter. But before that, to get the perimeter, you should first know this. In simple terms, we can even say it is a circumference plus the radius plus the radius. Then you move on together. But we can break and we find the circumference first. The word here is perimeter, the distance around the given figure. Our figure here is a quadrant. So can we get the perimeter? Before that, let's know the circumference. The circumference remains a quarter times 2 pi r, because it's a quarter of a circle. So we shall get the circumference by saying our circumference is a quarter times 3.14 times 20 centimeters. You now know where to use 3.14 and where to use 22 out of 7. Sometimes they will tell you to use 3 and 1 out of 7. Can we simplify this work? Next, express 3.14 as a fraction, as a common fraction, and 314 out of 100. Let's look at the common factors. 4 by 2, we shall get 2. 2 divided by 2, we shall get 1. When we divide, this one here, this is 120. We shall get there 10. When you cancel the zeros, you also have there remaining 2. Then we come this way. 2 divided by 2, we shall get 1. Then the other 2 remaining, when we divide 20 by 10, divide by 2, you get here 1. So we are saying, when you look at this, we started with this. When we divided 4 by 2, we got 2. And then 2 by 2, we got 1. We came here and cancelled this 0 so that we remain with the numbers that can be reduced easily. So 100, when you cancel this 0, means you have divided by 10, you remain with the 10. 20, when you cancel this 0, means you have divided by 10, you remain with it. The answer is 2. So 20 divided by 10, the answer is 2. 100 divided by 10, the answer is 10. So when we remain with this, we are able to divide again. 2 by 2, we got 1. And then 2 by 2, we got here 1. What do we remain with? We remain with 1 times 1 times 314 times 1. Out of 10. I talked about that in the previous number. 314 divided by 10, we shall create a decimal point by moving towards the left. 1 step in front of 4, shall move from here. We make a curve to create a decimal point here. Like in other examples we have been looking at. This time, you can just have it from the other side. So what is the answer in terms of circumference? Our circumference, when you divide 314 by 10, we get 31.4. That's why we highlighted with that blue. Please look at it and you check. That is step number 1. Go back to the question. Find the perimeter. Distance around. We have only got this. What about this one? And this. So we come and find the distance around the quadrant. It's different from the circumference of the quadrant. It is the perimeter this time. So we have this. What do we say about the perimeter? Perimeter is equal to the circumference, this one here, plus the radius, plus the radius. Circumference plus the radius, plus the radius. So let's get our circumference. Our circumference is 31.4 then we add the radius. What are we going to get? So we have 31.4 plus 20 centimeters plus 20 centimeters. What do we get from here? After adding 31.4 plus 20 plus 20. So what is it? We get a total of 71.4. Please carry out your vertical addition. Dear learners, I'd request you to always go through the work slowly. Make sure you check it very well. Follow step by step. Understand before you go to the next example. Thank you very much for staying with us. Thank you for following through the lesson. May God bless you. Stay safe until we meet again at school. Thank you very much.